I'll get started then. You might need to take some of these on notice, but I'm asking about Commonwealth assessment of the canal estate down at Point Peron, which was assessed by you guys and by the Minister on a couple of grounds, but one of the grounds it wasn't assessed on was the little penguin or the fairy penguin colony that's quite close by. Can you just confirm for us that that is a federally listed marine species under your Act?
Simon Banks, Assistant Secretary, West Assessment Branch. The little penguin isn't a listed species.
Isn't at all? It's on no Commonwealth lists? Do you need to go back and check that for us? Or
the advice I've got was as where it may have been relevant is under if we're assessing this project in relation to Commonwealth Marine as a provision.
Right. And it didn't occur to you that dumping of dredge spoil and dredging and harbour works might affect the marine environment?
Senator, there was a controlled action decision that was taken on the 27th of October 2010, and the controlling provisions on which that assessment, the controlling provisions of the approval were wetlands of international importance, threatened species and ecological communities, and migratory species.
Yeah. Now I'm aware of what you did consider controlled actions. I'm very curious to know why you didn't consider that species to be accessible as well.
The three controlling provisions that I just referred to were the controlling provisions where there was considered to be a potential for a significant impact.
Right. Why was there not considered to be potential for impact on the marine environment that might have then impacted on that species? That's what I'm trying to get us to.
Senator, I think given that the decision that you're referring to would predate Dr. Banks's time in this role, it's probably best that we take that on notice and come back to you with a more complete answer on that.
Thank you. So, yeah, I think you're well aware of what I'm after. On what basis of evidence of any kind did you determine that penguin would not be included in the assessment? Would be greatly appreciated. How do you evaluate social impacts of the proposal? You're aware it's dead set unpopular down there. You're required to evaluate social impacts under the Act. How is that done?
So, Senator, the consideration of both social and economic impacts comes at the end of the assessment process, and the Minister making a determination whether, at the end of an assessment, after having taken a look at the full avoidance, mitigation, and offsetting provisions proposed in a decision, whether the residual impacts that are left are considered acceptable. In making that determination, the Minister can take into account social and economic considerations.
He must take those into account, right? That's in the Act. So when you've got a project that is just really definitely unpopular with the local community, how does that factor into your assessment?
The federal government run environmental approvals by popularity?
Well, what is meant by social impacts? If the community down there loathe it and want it to not happen, how does that factor in? And if it doesn't, it doesn't. But how
Senator, as a regular course of business, we will always provide a summary of the public comments provided on any proposal, indicating both the number of individuals for or submissions in favour of a proposal and those against.
And in this case, there were vastly larger numbers of submissions against it. Well, you didn't raise the economic impacts as well. There's an unsubstantiated claim of $1.3 billion in economic benefits. There's no business case. The proponent is a $2 shelf company, which I think poses the same kind of economic liability as the developers of the development down at Bustleton, where the taxpayers just had to pick up a $30 million cost of rehabilitation. How do you evaluate economic impacts as being positive?
So, Senator, again, that is not core to our regulatory responsibilities. That being said, what we will do is, to the extent that economic information is provided by a proponent, which is quite common in their environmental impact assessment, that we include that to the Minister so that that's there for his consideration.
But do you just...
Senator Lavin, last question.
Okay, well, we'll come back after dinner then.
You can negotiate with Senator
Yeah, okay, great. But do you simply pass on whatever the proponent's given you, or do you actually subject it to some kind of critical analysis or thought?
Senator, again, as environmental regulators, our primary focus is not on validating economic information provided to us by individual proponents. Nonetheless, any information that we have that we consider is relevant will be included.
But do you consider whether
the matters you're raising are overwhelmingly matters for judgment of state or local government approval bodies and planning bodies in making their determinations of the merit? As Mr. Knudsen has outlined, the hierarchy of needs assessed under the EPBC Act is very clearly that the environment and heritage considerations of matters of national environmental importance are the primary considerations.
The only reason we'll come back after, perhaps. Thanks.
Senator Urquhart,